Not so long ago, I stumbled upon a really fascinating theory. The idea that the lore of Evangelion and Genshin Impact share a surprisingly similar narrative. It's no secret that Dewey is clearly a big fan of Evangelion. You can find references to it in almost every Hoyoverse game, from Fly Me to the Moon all the way to Zenless Zone Zero. And let's not forget that Honkai Impact 3rd even had an official Evangelion collaboration. The whole humanity struggle against world-destroying forces has pretty much become the central narrative of all Hoyoverse titles. If I were to list every single reference between Hoyo games and Evangelion, this video would drag on forever. But don't worry, today I want to go beyond simple comparisons. Today, I want to talk about how Yoshiyuki Sadamoto's concept from 1994 might have laid the groundwork for ideas like the Nibelung, the Outlander, the Vision, the Moon Sisters, and the Descenders. I think that makes for quite an intriguing title. Anyway, as always, this is Lily. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and enjoy the video. I was thinking about the no boundary between life and death line from the Song of the Welkin Moon teaser, and I think I figured out something major. How would a being experience anything if there is no boundary between life and death? Well, short answer is, they wouldn't. In such a world, there would be no way to tell where or when one being begins and another ends, but also since life and death exist simultaneously, the being would not experience any time. And if one does not experience time, can one be called conscious at all? Can one be aware of oneself? Can one have will? Memories? I don't think so. In Evangelion, the universe was seeded with life by a basically divine race of beings called the First Ancestral Race. I will call them the Ancient Ones here because I feel like it. They seeded the cosmos with life, but were also deathly afraid of that life coming back and taking their place as divine rulers of the universe. So, they designed their life-seeding vessels so that no one planet would host both halves of their power, and so, no one planet would be able to create the Supreme Being. The first half was the Fruit of Life, also referred to as the S2 engine. Beings born with that fruit in them would be able to manipulate physical space and their bodies to some degree, and also fuse with other beings. The other half was the Fruit of Knowledge. I don't think they ever refer to it as the S1 engine, but we can assume that to be the case, which granted beings the ability of cognitive thought, knowledge, memory, or consciousness. Evangelion's plot happens because for some reason, Earth hosts two progenitors of life with both kinds of engines. Adam BT, the first angel, the primordial being of Earth, creating his children with the Fruit of Life, and Lilith, the second angel who was not supposed to be here, creating her children with the Fruit of Knowledge. The arrival of Lilith on Earth destroyed all of Adam's children and bound him in the Antarctic, unable to act. But Lilith survived and seeded Earth with human life. Adam is a Nibelung parallel, will become clearer later, and Lilith would be the Voyager parallel. Bear with me on this one. The plot of Evangelion deals with them coming together in a way to create the supreme being that would possess both fruits and would be able to control the physical space, and also have a sense of self, a will. That being would be a capital G God, a will that shapes the universe. Now, we humans have the Fruit of Knowledge. This allows us to be aware of ourselves. Children of Adam in Evangelion can then be presumed to not be aware that they exist, they are unconscious, and they experience their birth and death at the same time. One could draw a parallel to the Greek fates and conclude that the middle fate is missing. The sister in the middle was responsible for measuring the length of fate. She was the one who ruled over life between birth and death. She would be absent in dragons. In place of one of the fates, we have the power to control the physical realm, or space, and join together as one being. If there was no boundary between life and death before the moons, we can assume that the dragons were not conscious at this time, and so they would parallel the children of Adam from Evangelion. And so, they would have the authority over space? This isn't important for the theory, but I do recall Ashikai mentioning in her theory on the shades that the shade of space seems weirdly draconic. That would be because this is the authority granted to dragons to manipulate physical space. The authority granted to humanity would be the authority of will, of knowledge, to experience the universe as a separate being divided by observer. Time then, as we know it, would be a human experience, a human authority, which would explain why APEP refers to it in such a weird way.
You are no different from Amun. Both of you have only existed for a fraction of what you know as time, yet you call yourselves lords of this land by leaning on the heavens' flow.
Consider the photon. We know that the faster one moves, the less time one experiences compared to the rest of the universe. A photon moving at maximum speed in the universe then, from the photon's perspective, experiences no time at all. How fitting then that the dragons are creatures of the light realm. Okay, so the dragons are not conscious and have no thought. What of it? Consider the following line by Nouvellette.
Did you know that vishaps lose the ability to distinguish colors over the course of their evolution? After the window of opportunity closes, they won't ever be able to enjoy colorful paintings again.
Interesting. They see no colors, or no visible light spectrum. So could we say that, oh, maybe they see in black and white, like life and death? I will not stop cooking. Here I will assume that the dragon's color blindness is tied to their lack of consciousness. And if the lack of consciousness is tied to color blindness, then being able to perceive color would be a sign of consciousness, of a desire to act not just as a part of universe, but as an independent force with experience distinct from others. One may call it a will. And if we can tie color vision to willpower, that opens a whole can of worms for this game's lore. Here I will just mention that the Tree of Life in Kabbalah is often drawn colored in and is referring to the greater truths of the universe. If consciousness is the fruit of knowledge, then elemental authority of the dragons could be considered to be the fruit of life, and a combination of those two would then be a vision. An authority that allows us to guide elemental power according to our distinct will, our ambition. It's called a vision because it's tied to seeing the color spectrum. So you know how visions are referred to as external organs? And if you lose a vision, you lose that part of yourself? And it's granted by the splitting of a small chunk of elemental authority from the dragons? So it can be assumed that a vision is born when two elements are combined. One is a split fragment of your fruit of knowledge, or literally, a fragment of your willpower, of your mind soul. The other part of a vision is a fragment of draconic elemental authority, or their fruit of life. A vision is a combination of the two fruits from Evangelion, of the two engines, which were supposed to grant divine power when combined, which is what a vision grants. As we can also see in the end of Eva, the combined fruits grow stronger when all the souls are absorbed. And if the soul is tied to the will, then it would mean that it grows stronger with more wills. Exactly what we see in Genshin. When multiple wishes unite, great power is unleashed. And yes, a vision is born. This would be the correct word here, because a vision is a part of you, and when you lose that part, you become changed. When you use a vision, I imagine the boundary grows very thin, undiscernible even, so there is no boundary between two beings, which allows you to control elements according to your small authority. So, yay, Kazuha could use his friend's vision cause his ambition aligned so well back then, and even with just two visions, he could face a god. This is collective consciousness. You are a sum of many yous. I need to talk about the loading screen because it's relevant. So you know how the loading screen appears when we move around the map, teleport instantaneously, presumably at max speed? That's teleportation, right? And we established that a photon does not experience time. So it does not experience colors. So if we moved as fast as a photon, so teleport, we wouldn't experience time, right? So we would not be conscious. So we would see black and white. So is the black and white loading screen lore? Let's set the stage then for the ancient history of Teyvat. Teyvat is born, and Nibelung is born alongside it. He begins seeding the world with his life, but he is also the world broke end. There is no distinction between individual beings, no way to tell where Nibelung ends and another begins. Nibelung is supremely powerful and can manipulate space as he wants. But thing is, he has no wants. He has no concept of himself. He just exists as a supreme being. The Voyager finds Nibelung and is enamored by him, similar to how in Evangelion, Lilith finds the Earth. Unlike Evangelion though, here, the Voyager does not decide to take it over by force tricks. Rather, the Voyager decides to break the taboo set by the Ancient Ones, of which they are likely a member, and help Nibelung by making him into a conscious being, granting him sight to see beyond just black and white. Our Lilith parallel grants Nibelung the ability to see. They bestow the fruit of knowledge onto the dragon god, allowing him to think, to experience the universe, and to enforce his newfound will onto it. And he has a lot of power to go with that will. If Nibelung is an Adam parallel, and if the Voyager is a Lilith parallel, this is the original sin of Genshin. Lilith gives Adam the fruit of knowledge, in form of the Genesis pearl, a dragon pearl. Dragons hold pearls in their mouth. Visions are like small dragon pearls. The Genesis pearl was the first vision, the forbidden fruit, the original sin. And when Nibelung eats it, he becomes self-aware. Dragons hold pearls in their mouth after all. He starts seeing colors. He now has memories, knowledge, and a concept of time and of himself. It's a perfect Garden of Eden parallel. The original sin of Genshin was then the granting of the first vision to the Dragon King. And I have textual parallels, naturally from Simulanka, from Dreams of the Ancient Capital. Having now obtained the key, Lycia opened the door to the Kingdom of Dreams, where she was to cross a river of stars and ascend an ink-black stairway, enduring many hardships. Finally, she confessed the reason for her coming before the goddess of dreams, and, in exchange for a lock of her golden hair, learned the magic of luring someone into a dream. Then she declared that she would take revenge upon the Black Dragon. In the beginning, the Black Dragon knew only black and white, but under the magic spell, it dreamed of 1,001 different worlds, each far more vibrant and vivid than fire and brimstone. If worlds like these strike your fancy as well, said Lycia, I will turn back the dial of the night sky, reversing all the stars in their courses, returning things to the day before you arrived in my hometown. The dragon only knew black and white, and then it began to see 1,000 colors under the princess's spell. This is Nibelung awakening as a being granted vision. Also, obligatory mention of Zhongli granting sight to Ajdaha as being another parallel to mindless dragons being granted sight. And there's more. In Simulanka, Nilou bestows color upon the beings in the forest, beings which are decidedly not humans. And that color allows them to have a story, so memories, to be more than just unconscious beings, to control their actions. Going back to the Gnostic chorus, we can then assume that the first heir is likely the HP, sent on a mission to retrieve the Genesis Pearl so that Nibelung doesn't destroy the universe on a whim, or threaten the kingdom in heaven, or something like that. A dragon threatening a kingdom, huh? But the HP were somehow deceived by the moons? We are told the moons are deceitful by Columbina into staying in Tevat, and so the second heir comes. The first heir on the throne, likely the HP, tricked into staying and being king of Tevat. The HP would then be one of the Ancient Ones, with full access to both authority of time and of space, personified by their shades. If we can think of a vision as a small part of consciousness, then we can also think of the HP's shades as a part of their consciousness divided by authority, kind of like the Trinity in Christianity. There are a ton of ways we can look at the story from here, but this would be the beginning. For a dragon to be strong and wise, they need their pearls. That's how they gain thought. It also makes them more like humans, which could be why Kukulkan looks so damn different, almost like a person. Nibelung's moons likely granted the strongest dragons pieces of his authority. They granted dragons time to perceive and to have memories of, to be conscious. It could be what the moon wheels are. Wheels are tied to time after all. Thank you for watching. Leave your opinion on the comments. I'm already want to discuss all this theory. And don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye!